Hey there everybody, it's Monster and I'm back once again with another headphone review. Today I'm going to be discussing one of my absolute positively favorite headphones of all time, the AKG K240 Sextetts. The Sextetts were produced by AKG back in the 70s. And at the time that they were produced, they were considered, along with the K340, to be top of the line headphone. And they were, I think, between $200 and $350, $100, $350, $250, somewhere around there. I'm not sure exactly, but anyway. So they weren't cheap headphones back in the day, but by today's standards, you're looking at almost $2,000 if you factor in inflation. So these were, you had to be a baller. You had to, have some money to own these back in the day. Fortunately now, you can get them on eBay for, as I've seen them as little as $60, $70. But typically a good pair in good condition will run you about, anywhere from $100 to $125. So it's not going to break the bank to get these today. So I'm going to tell you today about them, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, what they go good with, what they don't work with, and the pros and cons of these. And there's not many cons, believe me. All right, so these are the Sextetts. You'll notice here it says K240 in silver. And then here, it just says AKG. Nowhere in the headphone does it actually say Sextett. And most likely, you're not going to find the original box like I have here. Which, it does say Sextett right there. Sextett is representative of the fact that inside these headphones, there is a very unique design that has 6 passive radiators, individually tuned for, I think it's mostly the mid-range, I believe, which gives it an incredibly unique sound. And AKG began making them in the early 70s. And today, the early ones are referred to as the EPs, or early productions. Those had the most bass. That's what this pair is right here. Up on my wall of sound, I've got 2 more Sextetts. I've got an MP, which is the middle production, and then I also have the LP, the late production. So I have all 3. The mid-production had medium bass, and then the late production was the lightest of the 3 in the bass department. I personally don't like the late production. I think it is too bass light. This particular version, the EP, I think it's too bass heavy sometimes for fast music. If you're a metalhead, you listen to some mellow death or death metal, I think that the EP bass can be a little bit, it gets in the way to a certain extent. With slower metal, classic metal, Priest type stuff, Scorpions, stuff like that, the EP works great. They also sound great with blues. They sound great with, classic rock, whatever. The EPs will work perfect. The MP, in my opinion, is the perfect balance. It's not too bass light. It's not too bass heavy. And the EP of the 3 is my favorite Sextett. Now, buying a pair of Sextetts can be a bit tricky because AKG has released no less than 5 or 6, if not more, different headphones, all named the K240. And since these headphones don't say Sextetts on them, it can be a little bit tricky to know which K240 you're actually thinking about buying. And the easiest way to tell the Sextetts from every other K240 out there is the fact that the badges right here are silver and black. Okay, the K240DF, the K240 Monitor, the K240 Studio, the K240 Mark II or Mark III, I forget what they're called. Those are typically gold, a golden badge, or the newer ones have like a blue right here. Okay, the only ones that have silver are the Sextetts. The Sextetts also have holes in the headband. You can see those right there. The very latest production of the Sextetts had a silver, or excuse me, a solid headband. But for the most part, the Sextetts had the holes. All right, so that's the way to tell your Sextetts from a different K240. And about a year ago, I was getting a lot of requests on Headphone from people in the metal thread. They wanted to try the Sextetts because I'm always raving about these headphones. And so they're like, well, you know, how do I know? So I typed up a buying guide for the Sextetts, and I'm going to link that in the description after I get done doing this video. So you guys, if you decide that you want to give these headphones a shot, and I strongly suggest that you do, if you like rock, if you like blues, if you like metal, I highly suggest and recommend these headphones. You can go check my buying guide and make sure you find out exactly the right ones to get. Okay, so let's start with comfort and build quality. These are 50 years old, give or take, and they're still going strong for me. I take care of my headphones. I don't take them outside. I don't toss them in the bottom of a backpack and throw a bunch of books on top of them. I take care of them, and as I said, after nearly 50 years, they're still going strong. So build quality is not something that you have to worry about. As long as you handle them with a little bit of care, you will be fine. The comfort of these are incredibly light headphones. These are not heavy, not like the HE6s that I reviewed before. These are incredibly light, and hi Choo Choo, hello. And they don't clamp very hard at all. So when you put them on, that's backwards. When you put them on, they stay on your head, but they're not crushing you with a vice-like grip. The only negative that I can say about the comfort of these is that the cup itself is a bit shallow. So when you have these on, my ears, even though my ears are pretty small, they still touch the baffle of the cup inside. So that doesn't bother me particularly, but it may, be a deal breaker for you. So that's just something that you need to be aware of, the shallow cups. Now my stepson has a pair of these, and he's put some thicker pads on them that mitigates your ears touching the baffle. And to be honest, I don't hear a difference. So I'm not sure that changing the pads affects the way these sound too much. But they can increase the comfort. If the ear touching the baffle is problematic, there is a workaround, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So what makes these so special? If you're into headphones, and I'm assuming that you are because you're watching this video, you know that some headphones have a neutral presentation, some have a laid back, it feels like you're kind of in the 10th row of a concert hall, you're kind of back from the sound, and others have a more immediate sound. The presentation of the K240 Sextetts, it's like, it isn't a forward presentation, it's beyond forward. It's if you are actually up on stage with what you're listening to. It isn't first row or second row. It is, you're on stage. And it's really, It's not too much unlike a Grado, which I reviewed before. Um, the problem with Grados for me is they pin my ears, my upper earlobes to my skull, which I hate, and they can be a bit peaky. They're not for everybody. These do what Grados do well. These do it better without all the peakiness. And they bring guitars. I've never heard a pair of headphones bring guitars more forward, right up against your skull, than these do, which lends itself to aggressive music. Hard rock, heavy rock, metal, anything that is guitar based. These are, it's like magic. It's really, it's wonderful. And I think it has a lot to do with the passive radiators in the design. The treble is detailed. I guess a good way to say this is these are a detailed, non-sibilant, semi-warm headphone, if that makes any fucking sense at all. But that's essentially what these are. These are kind of on the warm side. They've got good detail with no sibilance, but the presentation brings the guitar so forward that it's like you put these on and you're going to immediately just start bopping your head. These are very musical, very enjoyable headphones. Very, the word engaging comes to mind here. The mids are mind-blowing. The mids are just so good on these headphones. They're really... the vocals sound a little bit like a step or two behind the guitars, but it's not like a V shape at all. Trust me, these are not V shaped. The bass is where we have problems with these. Now, we're talking about two different types of bass. You've got mid bass, which is a thump, 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 and these have that. The EP and the MP have that thump. The LP not so much, which is why I don't like them. But if you can get your hands on the EP or the MP, you will have that thump when it's called for. What these don't have is sub-bass extension, which is that lower rumble, that vibration. These have none. So if you're into EDM or hip-hop or rap or anything that requires a shit ton of sub-bass, you can just turn this video off right now and stop wasting your time, because this is not the headphone for you. Fortunately, for rock music, for blues, for metal, very little of that has a tremendous amount of sub-bass in the music. So you're not missing it with these. Where you're going to miss it, as I said, is with trance or rap. Something with a lot of... You won't get that with these. So that's the only negative I can tell you about the Sextetts. So if you're a bass head, these aren't bass head headphones. Imaging and separation on these headphones is absolutely razor sharp. I mean, it is so just... It's so defined. But it's completely coherent. I used to have a pair of Bayer Dynamic T1s, and those had a massive soundstage, and you could just dissect where everything was, and it made it difficult for me to enjoy the music as a whole. I was too busy dissecting it all the time. You won't do that with these. You can if you choose to. The T1s didn't give you any choice. These do. These will give you a choice. And I rarely ever find myself ripping a song apart by just focusing in on, the rhythm guitar player. You can do that, but it's not shoved down your throat like the T1s did. What I have noticed with these is you get a pretty decent sense of height in the soundstage. So you'll hear vocals above where the guitars are, and that's something that I haven't noticed too frequently on other headphones. Made in the 70s, discontinued, I believe, in 79. These were made to be used with receivers from the same era. They went together. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, I should say, the best results that I've had amping these is directly from the headphone jack of my vintage receivers. I have tried a Chord Mojo. I have tried my LG V20. I've tried a Schiit Magni 2 Uber. I've tried an Audio GD R2R11. I've tried a La Figaro 339 tube amp. And the best results by far are from vintage gear. It's like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together. If you have a entry-level amp like the Magni 1, 2, or 3, you'll get sound out of it, and you may even kind of like it, I guess, but it's going to be very underwhelming. You're going to listen to my words, you're going to go out and buy these, and you're going to plug them into your Magni, and you're going to go, this guy's nuts. I'm not nuts. The Magni just doesn't have the balls to drive these headphones. These are 600 ohms. I believe it's like a 93 sensitivity. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I think it is. So these need quite a bit of juice. And your entry-level gear just isn't going to give you the sound reproduction that these are capable of. So if you don't have a really good heavy amp or a vintage receiver, then I would skip these, because you're not doing them justice. You're just kind of throwing money away. I listen to a lot of metal. I mean, I listen to other music too. I mean, I listen to everything really except for hip hop and rap and modern pop. But most everything that I listen to has a good deal of guitar work in it. And these have been my go-to headphones for guitar bass music since forever. I mean, I had my HE6s, which are $1,300 headphones. And I can honestly say that I enjoyed my Sextetts more than my HE6s. The HE6s were a more capable headphone. They were more technologically advanced. They did everything well, as I said in my HE6 review. There was not a genre that I played through it that they didn't do well. But when it came to just musicality and getting myself lost in the music, when it comes to rock or metal, there was no comparison. I preferred these every day of the week. I preferred these. I have recently picked up a pair of ZMF Atticus from Zach at ZMF Headphones. And those have kind of taken over for these to a certain extent. It depends on my mood. The Atticus have prodigious mid-bass, just a hammer on your skull. And they have beautiful fluid mids. They don't bring the guitars as forward as these do. So it's kind of a mood thing. But the Atticus is, it's 4 digits. It's $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 headphones, and I'm talking about a pair of headphones that cost $100 used. So it's not a fair comparison. But up until I got my Atticus, if I was listening to metal, and I do that almost every day, this is the headphone that I go for. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a buying guide with lots of photos that I did a while back on HeadFi, and I'm going to put the link up. And in that, I talk about the different versions and how you can spot the different versions of the Sextetts, as well as the different versions of K240s. So, yeah, it's like first you got to know for sure that you're getting a Sextett versus all the others, and then once you get the Sextetts, you got to figure out, okay, well, which version? Is it the EP, MP, or LP? And I explain all of that in my buying guide. So I'll link that below. If you watch this video and you think you want to give these a shot and you have further questions, feel free to drop a comment down below, and I'll be happy to answer anything that I can. I just think that these are beautiful sounding musical headphones, and they're 50 years old. And it kind of blows my mind because I've got other vintage headphones, and most of my other vintage headphones sound like shit. They're U-shaped, they're pyramid shaped, they're something. They're either too warm or they're too shrill or they're boring or they're sterile or whatever. These are fucking epic sounding headphones, especially if you're a fan of Grados. If you like Grados, do yourself a favor and go pick up a pair of Sextetts. And there's a thread on Headphone called the Gradoed AKG, and it's about these. And they're not, comparing Sextetts to Grados, it's not an identical sound, but once you put them on, you will definitely hear what people are talking about. That forward guitar presentation, even the Grados can't do it the way that these do it. These are just so good for rock and metal. Just so, so good. Anyway, that wraps up my review of the K240 Sextetts. I could go on and on for 30 minutes about these because I love them so much. I will never not have a pair of these in my collection. I switch headphones in and out all the time. I'm buying new ones, selling old ones, trading this for that. I will never be without a pair of Sextetts. That I can guarantee you. That's how much I like them. Anyway, this has been Monster. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time.